Thank you. Good morning, almost good afternoon to friends and sort of colleagues in the capital markets, if you will. I feel much like the manager of the West Indies cricket team in the mid-70s. You know, you have an outstanding set of openers, you have fantastic bowlers, and you have people who can play all the roles. So when I look around, I don't need to introduce anyone. If you don't get enough gyan from this audience, I dare say you wouldn't get gyan from most people or most panelists in India at least. So with that, I wish all of you, and maybe since all of us have been introduced, I'll allow the sort of speakers to introduce themselves if required as we go along. But Ridham from Morgan Stanley, Ramesh Damani, who's a legend in this part of the world, especially in this building. Vibhav Kapoor, who brings experience, wisdom, and everything else to ILNFS and also to us. And Sushil, Kedia, who's very much in your part of the business and your neck of the woods, as it were. So the way we want to do this slightly is that, I go back to this phrase which says that a picture is 1,000 words. And the stock market has taught me that the ticker price is actually 1,000 pictures. So if you take that analogy further, it's like saying that reality, in a sense, gets magnified almost 1,000,000 times when it comes to the stock market. In the stock market, everything which is there to know gets captured in the price. So if that's the case today, and everything is there in the price, it probably makes for a great way to begin. And then I go back to the second thing which I've learned in the markets, which is that consensus never works. I understand yesterday a group of technical analysts had a panel discussion where 7 out of 7 came out super bullish. And an audience vote indicated that 270 out of 300 people, that's what Sushil tells me, were also super bullish. And that, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, sets the base for this morning's discussion, which if the world is bullish, and you heard people on TV more recently, everybody says super bullish in the long run. Medium term is uncertain, short term is very uncertain. I've never heard this kind of consensus come out loud and clear. So if the consensus has to be threatened, the first question, more iconoclastic than anything else, is the long-term bull market really intact? I throw this to Vibhav to start the discussions. Is the long-term bull market really intact?
Thanks, Jakes, and good morning, friends. I don't know, this whole session is partly technical, right, meant to be. So I don't know whether to address this question from a technical perspective or from a general fundamental perspective. First, let me say, and I seriously believe, a lot of people, especially when the elections happened last year, and I remember even the 2009 elections, when the Congress got suddenly 200 seats nobody wanted. And nobody had predicted they would get that much. Everybody said, now we are in a multi-year bull market, long-term bull market. The 2009 thing proved completely incorrect. First is, I don't know how to define the long term. So as Keynes said, everybody is dead in the long term. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years? Secondly, it's very easy to make long-term predictions, according to me. Because if I say today, the market is going to reach, Sensex to reach 100,000 in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, who's going to remember what I said at this time? So it's very easy. I can say to reach 200,000 there in 10 years or 5 years or whatever time frame you're talking about. So to my mind, long-term is something which is not all that relevant. Yes, I understand everybody wants to give the example of Warren Buffett and say, he made money over 20 years, 30 years. But all of us can't do that. First is, let's be very clear about it. And secondly, therefore, is it also in our context, is this relevant? So I would like to restrict myself to something, say, 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years at the most. Now, if you look at this bull market, which is started, again, when did it start? Everybody will believe that it started technically, if you look at it, when the market broke through that 2008 and 2011 top of 6350. But if I were to look at it as a technical analyst, and I don't generally do that, but if I were to really look at it that way and go back to the traditional Dow theory of technical analysis, there he says you date back. You don't know when a bull market has started. You have to go back and then see when it started. So if you look at that, the bottom was actually made of 4,500 on the Nifty. I'm sorry, I don't remember the Sensex levels right now. This was in 2011 or something. So after that second 6,300, then it went down, came up, and then it has never gone below that 45, and then it has made higher and higher bottoms.
Right.
So effectively, in that sense, the bull market has been on for more than 3 years already. Of course, after it broke through 6,500 on the Nifty, I'm sorry I'm in the BSC, I'm talking about Nifty, but somehow that's what we trade sometimes, so I remember those
say 13,500 if you wanted to sort of.
Yeah, okay. So the bull market has, in that sense, from traditional Dow theory point, been there for more than 3 years. Because if you had bought at that level, 4,500, you would be making money, even if the market was much lower than what it is today. Now, the fact is that everybody was very, very bullish. I think the consensus, I have never seen such bullish consensus in the markets for a long time, from the time this elections happened last year. And anybody you meet says, yes, things are going to be great, and you have a long-term bull market, a multi-year bull market in place. That's the word I hear everywhere.
So if 3 years we've been in a bull market, let's say take the next 2-3 years, do you see much higher levels, or do you see?
Yeah, so now things are beginning to, I think the consensus is beginning to change a little bit. And now what I hear from a lot of people is there's some doubts on whether we are actually ending the bull market and start going back into a bear phase or not. And though the general consensus still is that yes, long term, as we said, we are in a bull market. Now, if you look at some of the reasons behind this, according to me, one of the largest or one of the strongest reasons has been the global liquidity situation. So every major bank, central bank in the world, has been following easy money policy, quantitative easing. We had in the US, then we had in Japan, we are continuing in Japan, and now recently Europe has started. And that's a big factor. You've never seen, or at least I don't remember ever having seen, 10-year yields being at 0 levels. And in Switzerland, they are now minus. They are negative. So which means